record on this computer. Okay. Okay, we're not recording for Adrienne. All right. Welcome to the UXSA Community May meetup, and we are going to have a presentation, but I just wanted to do a few intros first. And there we go. So UXSA, we have a culture. Cultures are created by default or intention, and we want to make sure that our intention is an inclusive one and intentionally supports curiosity, learning, networking, and diversity. We want this to be a safe place to ask questions for new people and for those trying to advance in their career. And we want you to feel free to speak out, reach out, connect with us, and express your thoughts. We have a Slack channel for communication. You can send messages through chat individually or to the group to ask questions. And we're here as a network of practitioners to help with what we need. Today I had someone reach out. I needed somebody to help test my usability test, unmoderated usability test, and I had someone step up and help me with that. So it was very helpful. We do have different ways you can get a hold of us. We will put the YouTube, the recording of this on YouTube channel. We have several others out there from previous meetings. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, again, we said the Slack channel and our website. And we had some great sponsors over the last year who's helped us quite a bit. I'm wearing the Qualaroo shirt. It says the why. So, yeah, and tech systems and all that, and they're in our Slack group as well. So if you're looking for a job or looking for advice on career move, then Aquint or tech systems are there to help. And so our presentation for tonight is Adrienne Palmer and Fortune. I'm not going to try to say your name, I'll mess it up. And they're going to discuss our UX Sandbox process that we stumbled upon during some workshops, and it worked out really well. So I'll hand it over to you guys. I'll stop sharing.
All right, I am going to start sharing. Let me just get this set up. There we go. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
So I'm Adrienne. I'm a senior product designer. I've been working in the UX space for about 10 years exclusively, and I am a member of User Experience San Antonio. So what are we talking about tonight? We're talking about our sandbox method. So let me go ahead and kind of give you a little bit of history about what is the sandbox method and how did it happen. We were at UXSA, we were working on building a new site for User Experience San Antonio. You know, between WordPress and some of the other design tools that we were using, we realized, you know, we had some issues with, you know, some of the styling and some consistency. So we knew that we needed to really build sort of a quick design system. And instead of doing it internally, we decided to make it like a group project, right? Like, let's get our hands dirty with some of our members, and let's, you know, hold a workshop. So we reached out to Jim Curry, who's also is a senior product designer, and he has a lot of experience working in design systems. So we threw together a workshop. We decided to do it in Figma, and just really give an opportunity to work on an actual project, you know, with, you know, our members who are typically looking to switch their career to UX, or maybe they're just out of a boot camp. They don't, I would say there's a large portion of our membership that doesn't have a lot of work experience. So we thought it would be a great way to not only teach, but also get them really involved. So we set up these workshops. It was going pretty well, but it was a little, I would say, it was a little awkward because it was all virtual, and it's a little difficult when you're trying to teach and people are just, sort of, there's not a lot of, there's not that visual feedback that you get when you're, in a classroom with people or when you're in a conference room. And, a lot of people had their video off. So it was a little difficult to sort of gauge, what the engagement was. It's like, were people getting it? Were they too scared to ask questions? And then, so in the middle of the session, we just said, hey, why don't we create a new page since it's a collaborative tool, just allow everybody to just sort of get in on the same page and work together. And as soon as we did that, it was a really interesting thing happened. It was people were, instead of being sort of siloed and isolated, they were talking to each other, they were asking questions, you could see people moving around, you could see if people were struggling, people were trying things, and even the participants were asking each other questions and saying like, oh, I did this and I did that, and oh, how did you do this? And it was just like just a really interesting experience. And that's, so we were like, hey, it's this is really cool. And so that's why we called it a sandbox. And so we decided, in the next series of workshops, like, hey, let's continue to do this. So again, it was sort of like being in this COVID situation, being isolated, everything is virtual, the new normal. But at the same time, we have all these collaboration tools that we're using now. So it's almost even the sandbox sessions are better than like maybe an in-person or a classroom scenario because everybody is working together at once. Versus like when I was in college, you'd go be in a computer lab and everybody's got a separate computer, and an instructor would have to walk to each one. So it was a strange situation, new tools. We stumbled across something new, and we really think it's a great way to learn new skills and also to sort of get the members talking to each other and getting participants to talk to each other, and again, getting that experience. So for today, for this session, we're going to talk a little bit more. I'm going to turn this over to Fortune in a minute. She is going to talk about first how she switched design careers from a traditional design discipline into user experience in the middle of a pandemic. And on top of that, she has started her UX career completely remote with team members all across the world. So having that balance and still being able to work on projects, she's got a lot of really interesting things that she's learned over this last year. And so she's going to kind of go a little bit more in depth. And then we'll have a little bit of a question and answer session after Fortune sort of gives her readout, and just maybe save some questions until after she's done talking. And then after she's done talking and kind of showing you some of the way that her day-to-day is, we are going to have a couple of interactive sandbox style exercises that everybody can work on together, and kind of see it in action. And then we'll have more question and answer or questions. And I think Sherry also has a little bit of a business probably at the end and a giveaway. So having said that, I'm going to stop presenting and I'm going to turn everything over to you, Fortune.
Hi, let me just go to my screen share. Sorry. No, I'm on the right thing. Yes. Just wanted to make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Do you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so hi everyone. My name is Fortune Alboher. I'm a UX designer and a UX writer, and I volunteer at design.org. It's a hub for designers. We have mentors, we have learning resources, and we do networking. We have a Slack community as well. I started design when the pandemic started. I was before I got into the design world at all, I used to be a scientist. I used to be a lab technician. I did physics, chemistry, biology, microbiology. So this was my world. And I have a background in research from there. And then after that, I went into set design. And in set design, we use a creative process, which is very similar to the design thinking. So we have, I have some pictures for you from my, and it's not working. Oh, I have to go to my Figma, sorry. 1 second. Okay. Oh, here I am. Let me see. Oh, yes, it's okay. Sorry. So in theater, in set design, just like design thinking, we have research, ideate, we sketch, prototype, we build, we test, and we launch. We just have little different names for it. For example, in this one, I have, I created a set for the show Cinderella, and I wanted to get some inspiration. I would go look for inspirations. I found this lovely window, and I decided I want to have it in the ballroom. And then I sketched it, and then I made the actual one. We usually also build small prototypes, which is like a mini of the whole set. So it's very similar to the prototype in UX. I mean, the same idea. And then I created it and put it on stage. Unfortunately, this show never went on because of COVID. But I have another show for you. So this one is Fiddler on the Roof. And when you have the show, this is what it looks like. You don't see the whole process, just like the user at the end. They don't see the process. They just see what they need to use, what they need to see, and that's it. So it's very, very similar. And I carried these skills into UX. And when before UX, I worked with many teams. You work with the director, backstage, lighting crew, sound, actors. So we have so many users, like they're all really users. They use the set in different ways. And then you have the audience. So in UX, you have the same thing and you have to work with a lot of people. But I can't go to someone's office. I can't interact with them. So we have to do it remotely, and I learned to do it remotely. One of the tools I use the most is Miro. And the way we work either together or separately, but on the same board. I work with teams, with an international team, more than one team actually, but they're all international. I have teams on the West Coast, the East Coast. I'm in New York. We have people from Boston, Texas. I have someone in Spain, and we have a team in Israel. So we have many different hours. It's very, very hard to work together because of the time difference. So we try to have a meeting at least once a week where everyone joins. And then in between, everyone does their work, and then we leave notes. So what's so nice about Miro is when you look here, it's like a whiteboard, and then we start writing our process. In this one, we were working on the onboarding process. It used to be the same process. I'm sorry?
I interrupt you just for a sec. I just want to make sure it's clear that you're using Figma, but you're using an image from Miro, which is another collaboration tool. So Miro is a completely different collaboration tool that is super helpful with these kinds of things. But she's just showing you a picture of it because we can't show you all in Miro. So she's just showing you in here. So just make sure you understood that. So Anyway,
Yes.
and we can't see it very well. It's kind of small, so.
Yes, it's very small. I put it on a Figma because we're presenting on Figma. So this is the picture from Miro. I'll show Figma a little later. So the way it works with remote design tools, when you work together, it's very nice because let's say I start working on something, I pick my color here, I think is green. I have green notes. Other team members have different colors or stickies. And I put my notes, what I think, you know, all my comments that I have, and then I go to bed. And then the team in Israel, when I go to sleep, they wake up. So they continue where I left, and then they do their thing. And then the other team, or I mean, Spain and Israel is very close in timing, so they work a little closer together. And then the East Coast, and that's how it works. So it works really nicely. It's really good when you have to work so far away. We also work on Figma. Figma is also something we use a lot, well, mostly. In this one, for example, we're working on the design system. And I put a note here. We decided to work on a specific font, and I needed the fonts to put it in another page. So I requested it. So you have those notes. Everyone puts their notes. I opened my notes so you could see it. There's a function here for comments. So you just click it, you write your comment, and then whoever works with me, those are my teammates. I just blocked the names for privacy. So those are my teammates, and then they answer my questions. We give each other information we need. And same thing over here. Since I work on the UX writing and UX design, I have two colors. I use my purple for UX writing and red for UX design. And again, I leave my comments. The engineer might see it and change the writing, whatever I leave for the engineer. So that's how we work on Figma. And then sometimes, you know, Figma and Miro are not enough. So we have Slack. And then on Slack, we send each other more information. For example, the fonts that I needed, they sent me a link here to the fonts and to download it. And then I took it and then I went back to Figma and I put it there. So that's how it works. It works amazing. And then when we meet, we use Zoom and Google Meets, and we share the screen like we're doing tonight. And it's a wonderful thing. I came to the workshop at UXSA, and it was very nice because it's very similar to the way I work. And I'm also a self-taught UX designer and UX writer. So again, workshops, hands-on are the best way to learn. I used to be also a teacher as well. And my method of teaching was hands-on teaching and student-centered learning. So it's very, very similar. When you learn hands-on, it's very productive, and student-centered, you let the student lead. Basically, if I have questions, I get answers, and it's very helpful, very nice. And that's it. This is how we got to this point. If anyone has any questions, please ask.
In the chat or to you directly?
I'm sorry?
Do you want us to put it in the chat or just ask?
Oh, you can ask her. It doesn't matter, whatever you're comfortable with.
Well, first
not
off,
many of it right now.
the company is called designs.org.
Designed, it's DESIGNED.org. Designed.
I'm sorry, DES.
Go to the chat.
I'll just put it in the chat, right?
Oh, okay. I see it now. Because I wanted to put it in the chat, but I wasn't sure. And so you work as a UX writer and a UX designer, and your teammates that are all over the world, what are they in different positions or similar positions, or is there overlap? Is there more than one designer, more than one writer, or how does that work?
I'm the only writer, and there are a bunch of designers. I work mostly with the designers, but we also have the engineer, and we have our managing director, who's basically like the product manager. And who else we have?
So is it set up like in an agile team?
Yes, actually, yes, it's an agile team. You could say that. We do design sprints also. For the sprints, we have to meet. We kind of break it off. We meet together, and then, when you get to the part where you sketch, we might stop and then sketch and then meet the next day and so on, and then show our designs, or we just leave it there. We won't stay live the whole day, on the meeting, but we'll work separately and be on the tool together.
Regular check-in times and things, and working sessions and all.
Yes, and we use the Slack if we need someone. Let's say I need an answer right now. I'm in the middle of something and I really need an answer. Then I would send a message on Slack, and whoever is available will answer, or the person I need will answer.
It sounds really similar to the way I work. We work with people across the world. We have project managers who are in Ukraine, and they're available to us until noon our time. And then if we have a meeting in the afternoon, they'll have to wake up and come join us. But they also have people in the US that take over their position, kind of hand off. But we have designers all over. We have content strategists all over. It's me and one other researcher right now, but we meet up with the client who's different time zones and all of that. So we all have our own roles within each project, but we do use Miro and Figma, and I use Figma for the prototyping and able to do usability testing, and that allows the designer to do all the designs in it and then set up the click through prototypes, and then I do the testing on it, and then they can make the quick adjustments. And so it's a really great collaborative tools that has come out of this, and I think we've leaned on it so much more because of COVID. We've learned how to make them work for us, but it's really interesting to me that we are all working in a similar way now. This is the new norm,
Yes.
So, in a collaborative space. So we could, come and go in Miro, come and go in Figma, come and go in Slack, and but ever present, but in our own homes.
Right. Yeah, we do the same thing. And I actually work with more tools. I just didn't mention all of them here, but since I'm doing UX writing, then I also work on Google Docs and Google Sheets.
Right.
And we collaborate there too. Sometimes, I have a debate about a word or two or a phrase, and then I will send the link to someone on Slack, and then we'll have a whole chat about it on Slack, and then decide. And we do some research as well.
I write up research plans or documents, and then my boss will go in and put comments on it in Google Docs and all of that. And it's really, really helpful because I get sent an email that there's a comment, on there, and we can also share it with the client, and they can go in and either accept it, or not, and that sort of thing. So it's really, really helpful to have collaborative tools. And I know, we're using them in the way that they intended, but it's funny that we're all kind of settling in with the same ones for the same reasons. And that's what's interesting to me. And just to get back a little bit to, our process here, we call it the sandbox, because, even though we work this way in our work life, this is how we work. Usually the learning process has been PowerPoint, death by PowerPoint. And so everybody's been lectured to and speaking and all of that. So we decided to learn together in that workspace and that collaborative, like you would when you're working. So that really, really helped. And that's the difference, is that we're not trying to talk at you or just share information and you write it down and figure it out on your own. You're actually involved. So go ahead, Adrienne. I'll be quiet now.
I'll stop sharing my screen.
No. Keep sharing.
Oh, you need it? Oh, okay. I'll keep sharing.
I raised my hand because I noticed in the chat, Andrew had a question.
Oh, sure. Share it again. Sorry.
Sorry, I had to go off mute after changing a kid's diaper here.
No problem.
So yeah, I was just curious about the challenge of getting consensus, getting alignment around certain design decisions in this kind of new collaborative way, right, of working remotely with Miro, with tools like Figma. I think even Sketch now, we use Sketch predominantly with the government work that I do. And they've even introduced, these cloud-based real-time collaborative environments. And it's really fascinating how it just opens up, so much ways to be collaborative together. But I'm also curious, like, how do we rise to the challenge of, when people are being creative and exploring ideas, which I think is great, how do we kind of bring it back to, okay, well, all these ideas were thrown on the table, so this is the consensus or the direction that we're gonna head maybe.
So we have, on Miro here, there's a tool where you have voting, and we use that a lot also. So when we have a bunch of ideas, then we do the voting, and that helps us make, that's a cute baby. Sorry. So yeah, so we use the voting, we use the, we consult, sometimes we have to convince each other. Everybody has to explain their design, and that's how we come up with the final solution.
That's a really good thought, and it really makes me think about too, like the design sprints that have been popularized by Google, right? And in that process of involving other people to be part of, the design process and in that early ideation exploration stage, and voting is part of that, right? And you're right, that's a great tool that can be executed. I love the Envision freehand board too. I think it just recently, or maybe in the last couple of years, it has included that ability to vote on things or add little stickers to good ideas. And I've used that in the past, and it's been highly successful to get people kind of in a group fashion to now come to that consensus of, we want to go this direction. So thanks for sharing.
Yes, I use Envision too, and also Mural. Mural also has the voting option. It's great. I think those tools are amazing. I would have used these tools even in my previous career if I knew they existed. Like even with the set design, when you do your sketches and you do your plans, instead of having to run to the other office. And I worked in different locations. My studio is in another building. The stage is a few blocks away, and the office is a few blocks away. And I used to run sometimes, because just sending pictures on your phone, it's not enough. But a design tool like Miro, when you send the picture, you can enlarge it and make it smaller, and everybody can comment on the same, and at the same time, it's beautiful. So I think it could be carried over even to other professions, not just UX. It's amazing, in my opinion.
So there was another question in chat from Autumn. Autumn, did you want to ask your question?
Sure. When you have several designers, and let's say you're working on the onboarding, how do you divide and conquer and decide who's doing what so that everybody's not on top of each other?
So we break it down to, we had a few things we had to change. So we break it, it just happens. I don't know, like it just happens. Like we have those different issues, and we'll be like, oh, I'll do this and I'll do that. And it kind of works. I took on myself, for example, in this onboarding process, I took on myself that there are a few screens over here I decided to change the copy on it. There were a few questions that were confusing, and we saw with the research, and we had a lot of users asking questions. They sent emails, or we also have a chat box, and they asked questions about here that it wasn't clear. So I decided to work on that since I did the UX writing as well. So I changed it and I did an A/B test, and that's how we decided to use what I changed. Another example, I'm trying to think, deciding to divide it. I actually thought about it, and I did it because each of us have their own whiteboard as well, which is our sandbox, where we do our thing before we share our designs. So I came up with this on my own, and then another designer came up with this. And then we were like, okay, we're all, a few people came up with this. It's really necessary probably. And with some research, we had some user research and interviews, and it pointed to this, that we really need to separate it. So that's how we did it.
So Autumn, you're talking more about the workload, right? Like
and just because I was in this internship with, it was UX people in an agile startup, and we were on 2 teams, and one team was working on a different project, and our team of 4 was working on a project. And basically, we kind of all have the same skills. Usually someone has more graphic design. You always have one or two, somebody that comes from there. But when you're deciding like, oh, well, there's a little research in here, there's a little bit, how are you going to do the user flow? And so how are you determining who's doing what? And is it, quote, self-organizing in a way, like you're not assigned by someone?
That's what Agile is a team self-organizing. So
right. So we do
lean principles of like organizing yourself and your team.
Yes.
Right.
So we also have that maybe it might answer your question. We have a few different teams. For example, the team that I worked with from Israel, they're working on the mentor profile page. So there's a team that's working on that, and I worked with them on that. And then we had another team working on the design system, and I worked with that team. And then while I was working on the mentor profile page, the team from Israel was saying, oh, well, is there a design system? It was almost like a silo, but then they were like, is there a design system? So since I'm here and I'm like this, kind of like the central time, so I kind of like, discuss it with all the teams. And then, yes, we have the design system. I work with the design system, but it's not finished yet. I mean, we're redoing the whole website. So it's in the works. And right now I'm changing things in terms of UX writing. I'm only changing some of the UX writing for, because it's the cheapest thing to change for now. And we're working on the new website. So the old system didn't have a design system. And the new system is we're building the design system. So we kind of like combine both. So I talk to the design systems team, and then I give it to the Israeli team. And then, sorry, my phone is distracting. So yeah, I lost my train of thought. So I connected between the teams and lean UX, yes. So I connected between the teams, and then they know what to work on, we know what to work on, and we work together. And then when I entered the UX writing, so we're writing all the I don't know what to call it, rules of writing. And so then I did the writing there, and then the design system here. And then there's a team working on education and there's a team working on the mentees. So we have different pages on the website, and each team works on a different page or a different section, whatever you want to call it. And then we
your skill
all
sets are
put it
just
together.
what y'all fill in where it needs to be done when it needs to be done. And I know like someone who has,
Right.
you know, more experience may take on something that needs to be done faster. And somebody who wants to learn it can take on something that doesn't need to
Right.
be done as fast. So you have to balance your skills with your team and who has what skills and that
Right.
sort of thing. But that's a good question, because it's like, you don't have to stay in your lane. You can kind of branch out a little bit to fill the gaps. But if you're overlapping with someone else, then y'all just kind of, you know, arm wrestle it out or whatever. But
Okay.
you can figure out what you're going to do, and as long as you get the job done, you know, and
Right.
you're going to be flexible. The thing about in UX is you have to be flexible to be able to, you know, zig and zag when you need to, and work harder and faster when you need to, or slower and more methodical, depending on what needs to be done. And I'm on 3 or 4 different projects, and I do different things in each one. So, and I'm a researcher, but I do 3 or 4 different things depending on what XD or research needs are for that project. So whatever the team needs.
Right. It also depends on, you know, how your company is and what you do. Like,
Yeah.
my company is nonprofit. It's all volunteers. So it makes it a little harder because the availability is not as good as someone who's paid and has to be there.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a big turnover, and the hours are difficult. Again, international as well. Sometimes we need help with the language. I mean, when I work with the Israeli team, I work in Hebrew. And then when I work with the American team, I work in English. My Spanish is not so good, so I can't say I do that. But we just, you know, we figure it out. It works well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, it's 7:22. Do we want to have some playtime? Do y'all have other things? You have other things to cover before playtime?
No, I don't think we have anything else. I mean, unless anybody else has any more questions for Fortune, we have 2 exercises, but I think maybe we might only have time for one.
Let's go over.
That's what?
Let's go over. There's only 5 of us, so.
All right. Okay, so let me go ahead and just gonna go and back to Figma. Let me just share my screen. So before I do that, does everybody here have a Figma account?
I'm afraid I do not. Or I probably do and I don't know.
Okay. If you want to just go ahead and go to figma.com and just create an account. And then the link to the Figma file should be in the chat.
And it's super free. It's free and really easy. So, and it's not going to cost you anything ever for this part. Not with us.
All right, let me just move the little gallery out of the way. So, okay, so do we need to wait for people to join, or should I start the exercise?
What do you click on to get, where is it? I'm looking at the pages. Is it the Figma remote collaboration? Is that where I should be?
Here, let me put it.
I put the link again in the chat.
Awesome.
So you should be able to click through to it once you have an account.
Once you're on Figma, you can press the circle on top where it says A, and then you'll be following Adrienne.
Yeah. Oh, yes. We're on the second page. Yes, you can click the A and find me. So, okay. Should I just go ahead and get started, Sherry?
Yeah, you can give everybody just a few minutes to get in, I guess.
Okay.
And just Dana, let us know when you're in. And
I think I'm in.
Nicole. Okay, Nicole, are you in? Lee?
I see Richard, Lee, Adrienne, Autumn, and myself.
Do you see me,
And I
Dana?
see an anonymous. Yeah, I see Dana, anonymous.
Oh, that's me. Okay.
Oh, now another anonymous. Oh, it keeps on jumping. There's three anonymous. Richard, Lee, Dana, Autumn, Fortune, Adrienne,
And 4 anonymous people.
and 4 anonymous people. And Sherry. Sherry's on.
I just
5
signed in, yeah.
anonymous. Now we have 2 A's.
Yeah, so if you don't want to, does it? I have to get out of Figma. My computer is just like bogging down.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, if you can see my screen again, well, this link will be up. So, you know, can practice outside. Responsive design. So during our Figma 101 sessions, one of the things that Fortune had asked about, which I didn't really cover, was responsive design. So how much responsiveness is built into Figma, and the answer is not a lot. There are some plugins that can help with breakpoints and those kinds of different things, but Figma is really more of just sort of a flat design with limited functionality in prototyping. But there are some things that you can use Figma for. So let's see, so everybody's on the page. What I have on the left here in this frame that's called desktop is I just sort of have some elements in here. So I've got a navigation bar. I've got a little logo, got the application name, got some little icons over here, and then just a blue rectangle for that menu bar. Over here in responsive, this is where I've made some changes to some of these layout items. And let me just give you a quick demo of kind of how responsiveness works in Figma. So I can basically change some of these sizes. If you'll notice that the menu bar scales in response to that. I have my icons on the right that are sort of pinned to the right side, and my logo and the application name are pinned to the left side. And I have the layout grids turned on. I have a 12-column grid. So as I resize this frame, I can see how those columns would change. And that's very, very basic explanation of the types of built-in functionality within Figma. So we'll talk a little bit more about responsive design after we do the exercise. But what I want everybody to do is just select the desktop frame, and you can, so where it says desktop, and either Control-C or Command-C and then Control-V to paste, or you can select that frame, hold down the Alt key, and then just drag to make it your own copy.
I wonder if it's freaking out because we're all trying to do it at the same time.
Perhaps.
Try to find a different one. Okay.
Yeah, it's freaking out of mine for sure.
All right, I'll help you guys out. I'll just make some
I'll make
copy.
some copies too. I'll make some copies.
What did you say to click on what to make the desktop? Alt and,
Just click where it says desktop, hold down
Yeah.
the Alt or Option key,
oh, okay.
and then drag.
I made a few copies
Yeah,
here.
all of us can't do it at the same time, I guess.
Can't do it either. Won't work.
It's okay.
Found a flaw.
Yeah, it's also one of those things where for me it's like muscle memory. So that if you want to quickly duplicate something, you just click, like, select it, hold down Option, and start dragging. That's something I do a lot, and it works in XD, Photoshop, Illustrator, and a lot of other design tools. Don't- Not the responsive one, Sherry. Don't touch that.
It's like
I made a few copies if you want to claim one and use
It's
it.
locked. You got it locked down. I can't do nothing with it.
Yeah, I was going to say mine says view only, so maybe it's a permission thing.
I locked
Yeah.
it so that Sherry wouldn't steal it.
That is one of the things we need to bring up, because when we were doing the sandbox method, we had a guy who was joining us. He was actually in Tibet, and he was at 6 a.m. his time. And he was in there, and we were like, dude, wait. We're not ready for you. We're not ready for you to do that yet. And he was like all over something. But it's just kind of fun. You gotta make sure you want to share what you're sharing.
Right.
And when I hit Control-C, Control-V, it doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't do anything.
So are you selecting something inside the frame, or are you selecting the whole frame?
I was trying to select the whole frame. So you can't click on it. You just sort of have to make it highlight, right?
So how I select the whole frame is I will just hover my mouse over where it says over the frame name.
Mm-hmm.
And now once that is blue, I know that I have selected the entire frame.
Oh, mine is red.
Or you could also hold down, you could also move your cursor to the bottom left, hold down the Shift key, and then just drag to select everything. Press the Alt key.
And Adrienne, my entire document says view only, and I'm not getting any tools or.
Mine said, you know what? That's why mine says view only. I think that's why.
I'm wondering if it's the share permissions.
All right, hold on. Let me see. Anybody with the link can, what? Okay.
View.
Yeah, mine says view only.
She was just messing with us.
No, okay, can edit. Everybody at Sandbox can access this file. Anyone, why won't it let me?
Or you can maybe change everyone there to say everyone says can view.
Yeah. All right. So that was a test. I was tricking you guys. Congratulations.
Now I'm in it.
All right. Okay.
Magic.
So, that's fine. Okay.
All right.
I don't know where it went.
All right, I'll give you guys a few minutes to.
I'm doing it.
So, and to drag it, you've got to highlight the whole thing and drag it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. So again, here, let me, if you want to look at my screen. So I can just click just click right on desktop. You could also select the layer on the left side, but since there's like a million that are called desktop, that's probably not a good idea.
Well, me and Richard are naming ours.
Yeah, you can also, you can rename it by, well, we'll show that in a second. Where the name of the frame is, I select that. I press and hold down the Option key, and you'll notice that I don't know if you can see this on my screen share, but it's like my cursor turns from the black arrow to a black and white, like a double arrow. That's when I know I can just drag my mouse and then release to make a copy.
So would you say that Figma and XD are interchangeable or no?
I would say there's a couple differences between XD and Figma. They are both essentially designed to do the same thing, which is create screens and limited functionality prototypes. But there's a couple of features that are different between XD and Figma. But essentially, I would say if you are skilled in one, the learning curve for the other would be pretty shallow. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Which one do you find that you use more?
Well, I use Figma because my company, they want everybody in our team to use Figma. So that's why I use Figma.
Okay. Good answer.
Yeah, you usually use whatever the company's willing to pay for.
Oh, we have XD and we have certain teams that use XD. But in my team, they're just all about the Figma. So yeah, that's
and yeah, and that makes a good point, because before Figma there was Sketch, and before Sketch there was other things, and before that it was Photoshop, and so there's so many different tools that accomplish the same types of things. And the reason why Figma became such a huge thing is because they were ahead of the times, and they were including these collaboration tools. And that's something that made us jump from Sketch to Figma, as the collaboration, online collaboration. And Sketch came in to do that, but then they were a little behind the times. It was already too late, because with Sketch, if you're not able to collaborate, then you're messing up each other's files. You're having to use Zeppelin. You're having to use Envision for prototyping. You were having to, cost a lot of money for those stacks of software because they didn't do everything. Well, Figma did everything. So that's why they came in. And there's going to be something after Figma, unless Figma can stay on top. There, the whole purpose is that we learn to use the tools for what they're intended, and then move with the times. Yeah.
Well, another reason why we don't use Sketch at Dell is because Sketch is built for Macs, and we don't have those at Dell.
Right. Right. Well, and it was not, and Figma's agnostic, and doesn't matter what you're using it on, and it's web-based. So that's something that really made it, really friendly, user-friendly for the whole team, and not just the designer.
Yeah.
And this because we've changed the way we work. We used to work in silos, but now we all work together. Cultures change.
All right. So everybody's got a copy of they've made a desktop. We've got copies of that. So are we ready to dive into setting some of these constraints?
Sure.
The silence says yes. So if everybody could come back to the Zoom session so you can see my screen. So on desktop, the original one, if you look on the left hand, if you're looking at my screen share, on the left hand side, you can see within this frame, we have all of our elements there. We have a logo image, we've got the application name, we've got our icons. And so as I select these items, I'll start with Mario over here. On the right panel, you'll see where it says constraints. And you'll see this little box within a box. So, and you can see that the top is blue and this little left line is blue. So that is visually telling me that right now this icon is, when I resize my screen, this icon's position will always stay in its current place in the left and the top position where it's at now. So
Okay, can you zoom in a little bit? Because this, I've tried to zoom it, but I can't see very well. Tried to do.
Right. So I've just selected this little Mario icon, and I can see on this right panel where it says constraints, it says left and top.
Okay.
All right, you got that? So there's a couple of different options that we can do. The first thing that we're going to take a look at this, and we're going to say, okay, what do I want to happen? I want Mario and the application name to stay in the same position at the top left. So to make this a little bit easier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select Mario, and I'm going to select the application name. I am going to right click and say frame selection. And now I've created a new frame. So I'm going to do the same thing on the right side with just these three icons. To select all of them, I'm going to first start, let me zoom in a little bit. I'm going to select the first icon. I'm going to hold down the shift key, select the next one, and then the third one. I don't want to select the blue bar that's behind it. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to press Control and frame selection. So is everybody following?
Yeah, do you want to go ahead and
selection on the first one?
I'm sorry?
When you framed the icon and the app name and you hit frame selection, did you hit Control frame selection for that one as well?
Yes, right click,
Okay.
or Control, sorry. Right
Okay.
click,
Okay.
Control click to bring up that the context menu. So I'm going to I'll go ahead and switch back to your Figma file, and just everybody go ahead and select those items that you want to have sort of grouped together, and create it, and right click and frame them so that you'll have two frames. I'll give everybody.
I'm having trouble with my Figma. For some reason it froze. I restarted. I'll just use it on the browser.
I had to get out because it kept doing that too.
Yeah. Do we have the link on the chat? Yeah. Okay. I'll just use it on the browser. I usually use it on the app.
Yeah.
And it sends me back to the app. Oh, let me do this again. Use here instead.
We are just breaking Figma tonight.
Yeah, it's reloading. I'm waiting.
I'm sorry it's not working any faster. I mean, the whole point of this is to be able to collaborate with each other and help each other along with this task. But, you know, seems like the internet is slow or something. I don't know what's happening with mine, but the good thing is that you can learn it. You can see instructions, you can see her example, and then you can go off and do it on your own later on, you know, and then she can come back and see what you did when you're not there and stuff like that. So it's good that way. And then it kind of gives you a space to play.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to reload the page right now, and it's
not working
very well. So congrats, we broke Figma.
Do you think they're doing an upgrade or something? An update,
Right.
maybe?
They're like,
Didn't it happen with Jim?
Maybe there's a picture of Kim Kardashian on here and that.
Oh, yeah, she probably broke the internet. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's 7:45. Let's push the change to prod.
It's not working.
All right. Well,
So much for
Almost
that.
there. Almost there. Look, that
I
blue
know,
line
I'm
is almost.
that little line.
Can I ask a question while we wait for that 0.5%?
Sure.
So context-wise, would you invite mostly other designers to the Figma board? Would you invite like product managers, owners, business, other team members on the project or product team? Just curious, like who might be involved in this sandbox activity, and also just kind of curious their technical comfort, and you know, with using Figma or a similar tool.
So typically when we run our design sprints, we'll use Miro and invite all the stakeholders, or what we call our core team and the full team. And that's where the collaboration happens. And then within the Figma files, that would typically be just be designers. And that's just because you don't want, you know, you don't want somebody who's doesn't really, you know, like you said, maybe not technically proficient, like accidentally deleting something or, you know, having those kinds of issues. But sometimes we will export PDFs or do a prototype share, and then from Figma, and then put that into Miro, so that if stakeholders at any time want to be able to review, they can go and do that without any worry about you know, deleting things within our.
We had wireframes. Thank you, Dana. Thanks for coming. We had a thing where we had a stakeholder who wanted to work on the wireframes himself. And so our designer made a copy and put his little playground sandbox out on his own. She said, you can play till your heart's content. If you come up with something, let us know. But you know, and kind of separated it, which was great because he got to play around on his part of it and did not mess up the original designs. So that's what's great about it, is you can just duplicate it right there, easy duplicate and assign it. So.
Yeah, one thing I know that I've seen very valuable in terms of like stakeholders who aren't maybe tech savvy with UI design and whatnot, but still contribute some ideas in maybe like a direction of the interface, is like Crazy Eights, again, going back to like design sprints. And when you're in that stage of like, we just want all your ideas, capture them however you want. If you want to write those down, if you want to sketch those out on paper, right? And so they're not limited by the technology or the tool, but just whatever they can conceive. And I've seen that pretty effective too. And it kind of reminds me of that, where it's like, how many ideas can you generate? And everyone's a designer at some degree. Now, UI designers, you know, we're really savvy at pushing pixels. And so
yeah.
I agree. Like, don't mess with monk with our design files. But at the same time, we want everyone's ideas, right? And that's very valuable. And they'll come up with ideas that you didn't even think about. So.
Yeah, and in Miro, we do the sticky notes and all that, but just to get all the people on board for our project, we did some, there's a lot of, what is it called, icebreaker activities, and that helps you learn how the mouse moves, how it affects what you're doing, and how to move things left to right, up and down, make a sticky note, blah, blah, blah. And it helps you kind of play first to get used to it. And man, that really helps with the engagement once we get into the decision-making process. And we brought, in the project that I'm talking about, we had to bring in everybody, and we have done already 10 workshops, and we have two left. So the fact that everybody needs to be that engaged, and the reason why we're having to just workshop the hell out of it is because we had 14 weeks. They gave us a 14-week window to get it done. So I'm like, okay, we cannot do this in any other way. All decision makers need to be in the room at the same time. So that's what we're doing. And then this has worked out super well with that.
What we also do on Figma, you can open different pages. So sometimes what I do, and some of the other designers do, each one opens a page, and then they use that as their own sandbox. And that's where we play individually. And then we all bring it back, or, you know, either we invite someone to our page and see what we did. We jump from page to page, and then we see what everybody did, like going back to your crazy eight. So each one would do their, let's say we're doing like the wireframe prototype, whatever, the wireframe usually, not even the sketch. So when you do this crazy eight, each designer would do it in their own page. And then we go together, we follow each other, and we see all of them. And then we take the elements that we decide work and we want to put in our final, well, not final, but the prototype we want to work on. So we'll take like some of my ideas, some of, like, let's say Adrienne's idea, your idea, we'll put it together and create a new wireframe in one page where we all work together. So we combine the elements. And that's what we do. So it works like that too. I like it like that.
We're still waiting that to load, Adrienne? It's broken.
It's
yeah.
Still, like I have refreshed it a few times, and my next exercise was going to be an icebreaker exercise like you were talking about. So yeah, but so
Miro. I don't know if we have time to jump to Miro to do that.
Yeah. No, I mean,
no.
Yeah.
Oh, and also we need all those permissions.
Yeah, the permissions, and we also have 6 minutes left, so, you know, maybe we're just building the suspense. Sandbox part 2.
It's okay. Well, we can go ahead and close things out. We've got it on recording, and the idea was just to share what we came across, and then it seemed to help learn. I mean, this is not a new idea. We know we're not reinventing the wheel here, so we just feel like it was important to talk about how we've adjusted our work with online tools, and not just working collaboratively, but learning collaboratively. So that was, you know, we made that leap, and we feel like it was important to share that we're learning hands-on together, because, you know, with COVID, there was so many PowerPoints and meetings and all of that, and you can just take so much of that, and you don't learn as much. So, but with that, I guess we can go ahead and finish out. Let's see, Lee and Andrew.
One thing real quick, Lee, in the chat, if you guys haven't seen, he's put some links into some new plugins for Figma. One is about branching for, you know, different iterations. And then the other thing he talked about was something called Fig Jam, which is supposed to be Figma plus, that mural sort of element, so maybe the one tool to rule them all.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that you guys saw that. He put those links in there. Thank you, Lee. That's super helpful.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks. I forgot about it. I actually, they had the Fig, I forgot what it's called, when they had the
Fig
thing
Day.
for 2 days. Fig, what was it called? Fig something. When they had like
Like a conference?
yeah, the conference.
Okay.
Fig, right, the Fig conference. So yeah, so I saw how they use the Fig Jam. It's actually cool. It's very similar to Miro. So everybody can work together, and they have like those emojis and stuff. It's nice. But I didn't get to use it yet, so.
Could I add one last final thought on the sandbox
Absolutely.
concept? I really was intrigued by this and really appreciate you guys sharing your experiences with this. And I love just the whole concept and idea of, pushing the boundaries of collaboration, especially like carving out that safe space where people feel like they can come together and be creative, right? That they can explore ideas, that there's not really wrong or right solutions in this safe space where you can diverge on as many ideas as possible and get really creative. And I work for the government in a very rigid, old, agile, structured way. And, I've been very passionate about like aspects of product discovery and the ability to really dive deep and to have a better understanding of the problem space, and as well as like the early concepting and the creative exploration. It seems like in many agile teams, you don't get that ability to try and experiment because you're just constantly trying to meet the roadmap, right? You're on sprint by sprint basis. And I just really love and would encourage to even push this further. Like, I feel like this is the message that the creative community needs to bring it back into UX design, that we're designers and we're also the creative people, and we can help facilitate this, this idea of having this sandbox. We can just kind of not really pause production, but we can add this to our tool set of, what does this mean to have this sandbox in this open environment where everyone can participate, or few people can participate and really have a creative jam. So anyways, just wanted to share my thinking on that. I thought it was really great.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. Well, thanks for that feedback.